How can buyers get the best deal on a property? How can sellers create a buying frenzy? What is going on with interest rates, and how is that affecting home prices on PEI? We'll be discussing all of that and more with today's guest and top-selling realtor, Jeff Newson. But first, you're listening to Chattel Fixtures PEI Real Estate Podcast. I'm your host, David Cyrus MacDonald. If you want to stay in the know about real estate on PEI, then make sure you subscribe. Chattel Fixtures now has over 5,000 views and over 700 hours of watch time on YouTube, but still only has 57 subscribers. If you want to hear more conversations like this, please subscribe and hit the notification bell. If you are listening on another podcasting platform, please follow and subscribe there. And if you want to take it up a notch, leave us a review or a comment. Let's get into this. Jeff Newson is a realtor with Coldwell Banker Parker Realty. He currently lives in the town of Cornwall and has two children, Nevin and Ashley. His career started out in trucking, which ultimately led him to a successful career at Coca-Cola Enterprises here on PEI, where he managed over 200 accounts. In early 2007, he followed his passion for real estate sales and used his experience as a sales manager to help people achieve their home ownership dreams. From that experience, he has built a reputation as one of PEI's top-selling realtors. Welcome, Jeff Newson.
Thanks for having me, David. Appreciate it.
Yeah, well, glad to have you here. I really appreciate you making time to come in.
Yeah.
This is our first time meeting, as far as I know.
It is. Yeah.
But I've heard about you a lot in terms of you being very successful, and I really appreciate you making time to get here.
No, appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah. So, what do you see happening with interest rates, and how is that affecting home prices on PEI?
Well, interest rates have been a volatile situation over the last 6 to 8 months.
Yeah.
You know, the talk of increases, then the increases, and now they've increased however many times up until next week. There's another announcement by the Bank of Canada what they'll do.
Yeah.
There's some media talk. Will they stay the same? Will they come up another quarter basis, or will they drop them? I doubt they'll drop them.
Yeah.
And the biggest thing I think is to let time cool the inflation market, like for that Bank of Canada number.
Yeah.
So, you know, if they left it, I think, and give it some time, the market's cooling as far as the buying goes.
Yeah.
Prices haven't come down.
Mm-hmm.
You know, just as recent as end of December, prices were up 5.6%.
Right.
The most recent numbers, as of a week ago or two, prices are still gone up, you know, 3.9%.
Right. Year over year, right?
That's just from January 1 to current.
Oh, yeah, right.
3.9, and December was 5.6. So, So prices aren't going up like they were when interest rates are low. So, you know, if the interest rates stay where they're at, you know, the normal increase in real estate over the past 15 to 16 years that I've been involved has been like the 1 to 3% per year, which is great. It's a stable environment where it increases the price, and it should. It's a real estate. It's a tangible item. Mm-hmm. And historically, it has never went down here. Mm-hmm. You know, so I think if the real estate stays the same, interest rates stay the same, I think we're going to look at a more stable increase, like a 1% to 2% increase in value going forward. Now, it's just hard to say what the Bank of Canada is going to do. That's the key thing, right?
Yeah.
You know, and they can put it up a quarter. It's going to affect sales. Yeah. Still likely not going to affect prices. We're not in that super inflated market. Like when you listen to the news, the media will say, you know, housing prices are down 20% or whatever that number is. Canada-wide, you're probably right. You know, but if you look at the map per province, you know, it shows the decrease in real estate prices in Vancouver, BC, Ontario, a bit of New Brunswick. But our maritime provinces are all increased by 3 to 6 or 7%. So when people listen to that statement, they think it's that $600,000 is going to be $480. It's not. It's going to be $610. You know, that's where our market goes. Yeah. You know, we haven't been super inflated in the history of real estate. Right. We're still cheap.
Yeah, relative to the rest of the country, or at least the big urban centers.
That's right. And I think what people see is how fast it rose over the last 2.5 to 3 years. I mean, COVID was a extraordinary factor that nobody could tell what was going to happen.
Yeah.
I mean, the day COVID happened, who knew what was going to happen?
Right.
And 3 years fast forward, that's what happened.
Right.
So we're back in line to where, real estate should be.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. In terms of it not going crazy, because there was a while there where you couldn't get any conditions accepted and things like that.
That's right.
And people were buying things sight unseen. And,
yeah.
And which you still can do, but you have oftentimes it seems like there is a little more time. Now, I will say I'm, still, even over the last couple of weeks, I was seeing last Friday, and this will probably come out next Tuesday, but we'll see.
Yeah.
But there was a bunch of stuff in the RE/MAX office that sold with multiple offers still then.
Yeah.
So it seems like, things are still selling. Like
things are still selling.
Yeah.
It's still been thus far a great year. It's just it was a slowdown period when the interest rates really got high.
And fast. And people were nervous.
And people were shell shocked.
Yeah.
Anybody sitting on the fence was like, oh, I can't deal with this.
Yeah, I'll just wait and see where things settle.
Wait and see where things go.
That seems like that was a lot of people. And I feel like people are stepping back in a little bit.
Yeah.
As we maybe are stabilizing. We were getting bigger leaps than that, 0.25% before. And now, seems like it's regulating a little bit.
And I've seen it in the last few weeks, and most agents that are in the field doing this full time will say that, yes, the phones have started to ring again.
Yeah.
Slowly. It's going to take a bit of time for people to get adjusted to the new numbers.
Yeah.
And that's what I call it. It's, the new $150,000 bungalow is the new numbers, $375,000.
Right.
Right. Mm-hmm. So it's just an adjustment for people.
From 2016 to now kind of thing. Yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
So, and I bought properties through COVID, through that, so I always say the best time to buy real estate was yesterday. The next best time is today. Yeah. And the next day is the next best time.
Well, I will say, I have had situations where in little moments where it seems there's little pockets of low demand. I had a buyer recently was looking at this place and it was just so perfect for them. And the price was just right. And there was no one asking on it and no one trying to buy. So I said, this is the moment right now to put in the offer because you want it. Yeah. It's the right price. Like, do it now. And they were humming and hawing. And they waited till the next week. They wanted to put their other house up for sale first. That was the decision they wanted to make. Yeah. And then lo and behold, 2 offers came in, compelling offers, and then it was competition time and harder to get it. So, I'm sure you see that happen all the time.
My famous last words is, if you sleep on it, you may not sleep in it.
Yeah.
That's kind of what it really is, because if you see it today,
and if it works,
the situation's got to work for that buyer.
Yeah.
But if you see it today, someone may have seen it yesterday, right? So if you sleep on it, they're the ones going to sleep in it. If you're doing your due diligence within that 2-day period.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's nerve-wracking for me, the buyer, the seller, everybody. Yeah. Everybody has an emotional attachment to the transaction.
Yeah, exactly.
Even before the transaction happens, behind the scenes, before the offer's written, there's an emotional, attraction there that, it's tough for some people.
Yes, for sure. Sure. And then that's part of the journey and hope, in this particular case, hopefully they see that and learn from it. And the next time the thing that has, the right price, the right house, the right location.
No, that's right.
That it works out.
And that's the thing with buyers and sellers. Every situation is different, and no transaction will ever be the same for the most part. Yeah. Because as a realtor, I feel we are emotional filters between the buyer and the seller, and we got to look after our buyers. We got to look after our sellers. We got to look after ourselves. There's a lot goes on that really doesn't get seen by the public eye.
Yeah.
So
yeah. Communication being such a big one of that.
Oh, it's huge.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, I guess that actually maybe leads us, maybe I'll skip over a question here. But you have dealt with a lot of different realtors through the years. What separates the good ones from the bad ones?
Communication's huge. Number one. There's a friendship there too. It's not we're not enemies. We're facilitators as a profession.
Yep.
You know, and like I said, we filter emotions. Like we see what our seller, if I'm the listing agent or the buyer, we see what they're saying in our cars. We see what the other people are saying in their houses. You know, I won't take a cent less than this, and I'm not paying a cent less more than this until it gets on paper. That's just, you know, you filter that, take it with a grain of salt, and, you know, get it on paper. Maybe it's not money sometimes. You know, it's not always money. It's time. You know,
right.
I brought you an offer today and you got to be out in 30 days. I can't be out in 30 days. I got to be 60 or something, you know.
Right.
So it's not always about the money.
Yeah. It can be about life in other ways.
It's life too, right?
Yeah.
You know, life trumps everything, I think. And you got to respect that on both sides.
Yeah. Yeah. And so when you see, because there's a lot of people, there's a lot of realtors that come into this business and come out of this business. What do you think is the number one reason people leave?
It's not for everybody.
Yeah.
It is not for everybody. And I I grew up on a farm, so I was on call, you know, with livestock. It's 24/7. If something's happening at midnight, you got to be there at midnight. Yeah. And then again, with my trucking background, I could be trucking all night and sleeping all day, or, you know, you just never know. And then with Coca-Cola, you know, I had 200 plus accounts that I serviced. So I had those phone calls at 10 o'clock at night. My fountain unit's not working at a bar or something, you know. Yeah. So I was kind of used to that, where people would get into it and think it's an 8 to 5. It's not. It's literally not.
Yeah. You know, exactly. So you think that always on thing is maybe the biggest?
It could be that, and there's a success factor too. I mean, you can't do everything for nothing for long.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
Right, yeah.
And I was told getting into it, you need to have 6 months of, you know, liquid income to get you through that period, because it takes time. You know, if you sold a house first day, it's 30, 40, 50, 60 days before you would ever get paid. So right off the bat, you got 30 days the day you start.
Yeah, absolutely.
Easy.
Yeah.
You know, so.
Yeah, and it's a long-term relationship too with the buyers and the sellers too. It's like, you know, someone doesn't just wake up in the morning and say, I'm selling this house today and put it on the market that day. You know, this is something they're thinking about for months or years and decide to make a life change, or maybe there's a job change, baby coming, or whatever it is. Yeah. And so, you know, I think that is probably something a lot of people coming in just assume, like, oh, you want that instant gratification.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's not instant. You know, it takes, I would say, 5 years is kind of the timeline to grow a business in this business. Yeah. To be long-term successful. You know, you got to work hard for your company, which is yourself. I call myself my company because it's my business. Yeah. And you're self-employed. 100%. Yeah. So, you know, you got to manage your business too. It's not like you're just going out selling houses and getting a paycheck on Friday. Yeah. You know, you got to manage it's an income and expense. It's a
HST, all that stuff.
Taxes, you know. People can get trapped in the tax problem too. Where
that must happen all the time.
They just income, spend, and then all of a sudden, the tax man comes and you got no money.
Yeah, exactly.
So there's people that have got caught in that. I'm sure there has. Yeah. You know, I set myself up where it's separate. You know, when I get paid, I put this separate in another account. It's my tax savings account. So when the old Sam comes, I write a check and I don't have to sweat about it.
Yeah, for sure.
You know, that's a big thing, I think, for people self-employed in every business. Yeah. Is to manage your business.
Yeah, I mean, even
effectively.
Even if you're, say, for the real estate investors listening too, it's like you see, you know, everything's sailing along great, and then you need a new roof. And if you aren't socking some away for capital expenditures, well, then you need, that needs to come from somewhere, right?
That's right.
So there is that element of planning. And like you said, in any business, in any business, it can happen. And I mean, you know, talk about surprises. People have experienced surprises over the last few years. So
I bet you.
I think we're now learning that, like, expect the unexpected.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah. What investments can homeowners put into a property to get the best return?
The best return, I think the big ticket items like your roof, your furnace system, your heating system, whether it be oil or whether it be heat pumps, you know, electric, Kitchens, bathrooms are key.
Yep.
That's kind of and garages, there's the kitchen, the bathroom, and the garage. There's 3 things there that I hear couples, if it's a couple, mention.
Yeah, people do ask about garages a lot.
They do.
Yeah.
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 So, and then there's the location.
Yeah.
I mean, there's 3 things in a property. It's price, product, location. Can't change location. You can somewhat change the product in beautification or renovation. And price is really the only thing you can strike your pen and change.
Right. Yeah.
So there's a lot goes into, that.
When people are actually thinking about the moment to sell, what is affecting these things, and and what are the areas a person can do to change the outcome, and so what about like if someone has really kind of flashy paint and all that stuff, like do you think like settle it down?
I like neutralizing things.
Yeah.
So there's back in the Dora days, I mean, you may have experienced it with your children, that pink.
Yeah.
And then there's the greens and, the wild colors for kids' rooms. And that's fine. That's for the family that enjoy it.
Yeah.
And I find one neutral color throughout is the best effect.
Yeah.
It just lays a clean slate for the buyer.
Yeah.
It's because you walk into a house with a hot pink room, the first thing the buyer says, "Oh my God, look at the color of that room."
Yeah, and
nothing wrong with it.
Yeah,
it's just their daughter may be 22 years old, and
exactly.
The first thing they got to do the day they move in is paint that room.
Yeah,
right. So if you're neutral, then everybody can deal with the neutral side of it and not have to worry about, okay, I'm closing this house in 30 days, and I got to save money to. I need $500 to paint this room, and I need $500 to do this. If the vendor, the person selling, did that, may cost them $1,000 to do some light fixtures and this, but it's not a burden to the buyer then.
Yeah.
So the buyer, is likely strapped-ish, with the cost of doing that deal and closing costs and the 1% land transfer. So then they all of a sudden have to take out of pocket that extra $1,000 or $1,500 or whatever it may be. So the simpler a vendor can make it for a buyer,
right,
will translate in them getting that money back. You know, just that the buyer doesn't have to take that out of pocket.
Right. And I think like sometimes it's such a big purchase too, that people often approach it nervously.
Yeah.
So if there's just one thing that's making you kind of feel like, oh, maybe this one isn't the right one for me, and it could be just something simple as a pink room, it might just have that effect of being like, let's just look at something else.
Yeah, no, and it could be, people's tolerance factor for stress is all different.
Right.
There's people in this world that couldn't care less. But there's people that, think about every little bit, and they should. It's coming out of their pocket.
Yeah, for sure.
So I always think the easier a vendor, an owner of a house selling, can make it for the buyer, potentially, the better it'll be for everybody.
Right. Smoother. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
For sure. And it broadens the market too. That way it includes the people who may be a little bit skittish.
That's right.
And the more people who could potentially buy your place, the more likely you are to get it sold at the price you want.
No, that's right.
What do top producing realtors do differently in your view?
It all comes back to communication.
Yeah.
A lot of it's communication.
Yeah.
With other agents, their colleagues, your office, every different company. And like I said, we're not enemies. We're out there doing the same job. It's relationships. It's relationships with your clients, whether it be a buyer, seller, other agents. You learn very quick who doesn't want to get along, right? There's always a bad apple.
Yeah.
So, and I'm not sure how many agents are in the business right now, maybe 500.
I've heard something like that.
It'd be close to that, I'm thinking.
Yeah.
Which is a lot for PEI.
Yeah.
I'm not saying it's too many, but it's a lot.
It's a lot. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you can imagine too, like one of the things that I've noticed in communication with different realtors is sometimes you'll have a question for someone. I'm working with a buyer. The buyer's coming in. The buyer has a question about something. Some people will just be like, boom. They'll get right back to you. Even if they don't know, they'll say, I'm going to get you an answer.
Leave it with me.
And they do, and they follow up.
Yeah.
And then there's other people who I'm dealing with who will say, okay, let me say, oh, you know what? This one has an accepted offer. And I'll say, okay, let me know if the conditions fall through. And then nothing, I don't hear from them for a few days. And I text them again and I say, whatever happened to that? Did that sell? They're like, oh no, the conditions fell apart. Right. And so meanwhile, I have a buyer who's interested in that place. And fortunately for my buyer, I was able to go back and find that out and then get that information. But if a realtor's like, you can imagine how there could be a difference in terms of how a house actually sells when you have someone who's on it in terms of communication with the different participants in the market. And that could be very real.
It is real. And, you know, nobody's at fault. Sometimes you just get so busy that I forget you asked about that house that was 3 weeks ago, because conditions are usually a couple of weeks. And a lot happens in a couple of weeks. You know, so, you know, if I'm in that position, I'll have a note in my book. Okay, when's conditions due? You say, okay, March 15th. I'll put a note in my book on the 13th. Listen, I'm going to get a hold of David. Just shoot him a quick text. How's that looking? Maybe it's firming up today. Maybe it's going to fall apart. We don't know yet. Check with me on the 15th. So you got to kind of keep on that too. It's part of the business.
That follow-up, that seems like huge. Yeah. And I mean, I think everybody who has experienced being a buyer, for maybe not everybody, but I've certainly, in my experience being a buyer, have definitely experienced what it's like to feel like you're waiting around and don't have information and not necessarily hearing back from the people, or maybe even you don't have a realtor yourself yet and you're checking in, you're messaging on realtor.ca and nobody's getting back to you about the different listings and stuff. And it can feel challenging. So when somebody is just immediately on it, like, oh, I'll get that information for you, even if they don't have it now, or this is the answer, it feels good.
Yeah, no, it does.
It builds trust, and
it's a camaraderie thing too within the association. Like all our colleagues, like you know, I could walk into our office, I can walk into your office. You know, we all get along. We all know each other. Yeah. You know, it's PEI.
Yeah, totally.
You know, it's a different market than if you're in downtown Toronto.
Yeah.
You know, where nobody knows anybody, really.
And you can really kind of keep up with, to a certain extent, most things that are happening in the market too. Like if you look at the hot list in a morning, you know, there might be 20, 30, 40, 50, rarely more than 100 changes happening in the market.
That's right.
And it is sort of at a scale where it is possible for a person to kind of be on top of what's going on.
No,
which
for
is
sure.
a little different probably than sometimes when I'm in a city and I'll pop open realtor.ca and it's like, whoa, there's
how do you even
begin?
Comprehend this? Yeah, no, for sure.
Different kind of game.
Yeah.
Altogether. What should people be looking for in the realtor they choose to represent them, in your view? Or what kind of criteria would people bring to that? Or even,
well, not everybody gets along with everybody. I mean, there's oil and water, there's water and water.
Right.
You know, so you got to be suited with your client, or they got to be suited with you. I mean, people tease me sometimes in the summer, you're going to a showing like that, shorts and flip-flops. Yeah, it's 30 degrees. They're going to show up in shorts and flip-flops. You know, I'll look stupid. Maybe.
If you're overdressed.
You know, there's a professionalism there as well. But, you know, it's to keep, you don't want to be intimidating. You know, it's the same as having an intimidating client. Right. You know, maybe you don't want that intimidating client. You know, there's business for everybody that they don't want. You know, unfortunately. You know, sometimes no business is better business than having business you don't want. Right. Yeah. In a way. I mean, it's hard to say that with a positive spin to it, but it goes both ways. Yeah. And you have to be able to live your life and have a good life. Yeah. And if you're really not liking your work, you're probably not going to do as good a job at it. No, that's right. And I love it. I wake up every morning. When I hit the floor, I'm unemployed. Who am I working for today? You know, that's the key. That's what you got to get in your head. That you're unemployed. Every day, every single day. So, and I like that. You know, it's drive. It's motivation. It's artificial, but it's motivation. You know.
Well, I think people do work on incentives to a certain degree. And it's like, if you can be out there and if you can deliver the goods and if your clients are really happy and if you are on it, then you can be rewarded for that.
Yeah.
And it is a business, I believe, that a lot of people, I don't know if this is true or not, maybe do your own research on this, but I heard something like across North America, the average realtor sells something like 2 houses a year. Maybe it's 5, but it's
I'm not sure. There could be
really small amount.
In some of those markets, it's possible. Like I couldn't imagine moving to Toronto today.
Yeah.
And I'm going to be a realtor there.
Yeah.
How would I start?
Yeah.
Where do you get that first lead?
Yeah, exactly.
I don't know.
It'd be people from PEI moving to Toronto at first, I bet.
At first, it'd be relatives that maybe have sprawled over Canada. Or, I don't know. It'd be a tough one. And I give people credit that move from away here and become a realtor. And, there's a lot of good ones.
Yeah.
That come from away and have done well.
Yeah.
Great to get along with.
Yeah.
So
yeah, totally.
It's a tough one for sure. I just wouldn't want to be on the other side of that.
Right. Yeah. For sure.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
How can a buyer get the best deal on a property?
That's kind of a funny statement because when I hear people say, I can get you the most for your house, you know what I mean? It almost leaves a buyer saying, it seems awkward for a buyer then, like, I'm going to I'm working for whoever I'm working for, the buyer or the seller.
Yeah.
Obviously I'm going to get as much for the seller as I can.
Yeah.
And I'm going to get it as cheap for the buyer as I can.
Yeah.
That's a double-edged sword. I'm not going to brag about I can get you more for your house than someone else because that kind of puts the buyer at a disadvantage.
And then also you could build a reputation of being like, oh, that guy overprices everything.
Right.
So someone sees your listing and then maybe they wouldn't be, versus if someone's like, okay, that person prices it right. Like this is worth looking at. This is a serious situation here.
Comps.
This isn't some kind of joke, because you do see some listings there that you're like, it's like, no, buyer beware.
Yeah.
So there is.
It's kind of a funny conversation.
It is. I mean, ultimately, your duty is to whoever you're representing.
Right. That's your fiduciary duty is to your client.
Yeah.
And maybe you're on both sides of that. Maybe you got the buyer and the seller.
Right.
Well, you know what? There comes the filter. Okay, you're going to write an offer with me on my listing. What do you want to write? It's your decision. I'm not going to sway you higher, lower, conditions, no conditions. You tell me what you want in the offer. I take that contract to the seller. The paperwork looks after itself, because then I go to the seller and listen, you explain that you're in limited dual agency here. So the buyer has this offer for you. What offer do you have for them?
Right.
Right. So the paperwork looks after itself. Some people get scared in the limited dual agency. Not at all.
Okay.
It's the paperwork.
I hear as many different takes on this.
This
is probably the
biggest
hot button issue there could be in the business in a lot of ways.
I hear it from agents all the time.
Yeah.
And everybody's entitled to their opinion.
Yeah.
That's mine.
Yeah.
Everybody's going to have their different opinion, and they're going to experience things different that maybe gives them a different opinion.
Right.
Right. So I always say, listen, the paperwork's going to look after this.
Yeah.
You don't have to worry. I'm not going to tell my client to offer this much, or I think they'll take this, or
yeah, exactly. And in that particular situation, that you're like obligated to do it that way. Yeah.
I always say, let the paperwork decide. The buyer and the seller are the ones that's going to decide.
Yeah.
What's your property worth? Exactly what you'll accept and exactly what a buyer will pay.
That is the specific thing. Yeah.
That's the, there's a price tag on it. It's not the price. You don't walk up to the cashier and that's the price.
Right.
You negotiate it.
How can a seller, and maybe price is the only way, I'm not sure.
Yeah.
I see different marketing things, but sorry, I should ask the question first. How can a seller create a buying frenzy? Is that possible?
I don't know if a seller can create a buying frenzy. The market creates any frenzy.
Yeah.
Really. I mean, a buyer or a seller can put flags in their yard. They can, do whatever they can do, but I don't think they can create a frenzy.
Yeah.
The market creates that. I can't create a frenzy on any of my listings. I don't think.
Right.
And I don't think there's anybody that can.
Right.
The market determines frenzy.
Right. Interesting.
In my opinion.
Yeah. So like, say different marketing approaches that say, cast a wider net, get a few more people in viewing it, that kind of thing. I mean, it does open it up to more buyers, but at least at the level of a frenzy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think you can create a frenzy.
Yeah.
I think the market itself, MLS is the most powerful tool we have.
Mm-hmm.
It creates its own market.
Mm-hmm.
80% of buyers are online right off the bat.
Yeah.
I have some clients to kind of listen, if this ever comes up, let me know.
Yeah.
Now I got to be on that and watching the hot list and checking for that stuff, which I do. I mean, every day it's my job.
Yeah.
So I'm sending clients stuff that they've talked about a month ago.
Yeah.
But for the most part, people know what they want as far as location and somewhat of a product. And people sometimes don't really know what they want until they see it.
Yeah.
There's every mix there. So as far as creating a frenzy, I don't think anybody can do that. You can take the sexiest pictures in the world, and drone. That's great. And it's great tools to have, that pictures, drone footage, property boundaries and knowing where all that is. But I think the market creates its own frenzy if there's going to be one.
If there's going to be one. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Interesting. Yeah. So where do you see home prices going over the short to medium term on PEI and then over the longer term?
I'd say short term, 2023 on an average, likely be a 2% increase.
Right.
That's my vibe.
Yeah.
We don't know that for sure. That's just where I'm feeling the rates are going to put it. Now, when the rates start to come down, I think the increases are going to stay at that back to pre-COVID or even, 5 years prior to today, that 2%. I think that's where it's going to be.
Interesting.
We got the numbers up to where they're at today.
Yeah.
So I think 2% on 500 is, 10,000, compounded.
Yeah.
Right. That turns into 550 in 5 years.
Yeah, exactly.
Or whatever.
Not to mention the leverage available if you're borrowing on your property, and most people do. Say if it's your primary residence and maybe you do the insured loan, you're doing 5% down. That's 20 times leverage on that basically. So that 2% is really like potentially a 40% increase on your dollar that you put in, or that 20%. It's still a 5 times leverage on what you put in. So the differences can be pretty that 2% can mean a lot.
It is
to you as a homeowner over time, largely because it's such a big purchase.
Yeah. And I still think, and I might be biased that I'm in the business, I own real estate. If you had $50,000 and you went to the bank and you're going to make an investment, you're going to buy $50,000 worth of something. It is what it is. You walk in with 50 and you buy $50,000 worth of something. Yeah. At a 20% on your mortgage, you can take that $50,000 and buy something worth $250,000. Yeah. That's magic. It is. You can have a $250,000 asset first day. Yeah. With $50,000. Yeah. Where if you walked in somewhere else to an alternative thing, you're going to walk out with $50,000 worth of something. Yeah, exactly. So that's I preach it. Everybody's heard me say it. It's real estate magic. It is. Yeah, and it's something that I think makes a big, right off the bat, provided you believe in the, you think it's the right house, right location, all that stuff. You get access to all that investment. It is a powerful thing. It sure is. So, I mean, going back a little for you, tell me a little bit about the transition from working with Coke to working in real estate. And did it take you a long time to build your business? Well, it's almost like today when I look back 20 years, it looks like everything I've done my whole life set me up to be where I'm at today. Yes. And you would never be able to predict that. Like I could not go back 20 years and say, I'm going to do this, this, and this, and I'm going to end up being this. Right. It just, the relationship I built like with the farming community. I've dealt a lot with farmers, land, farms, in the middle of a deal right now with a farm. Yeah. Then, I drove a truck for X years for a local company across the island and, to the border and stuff. Every day I was in Halifax or St. Andrews. Yeah. So I met a lot of people along that way. So I've, had those contacts. Yeah. Then I went with Coke.
Yeah.
And the guy that hired me there, he said, "Come on in, we'll have you sorting bottles." You know, not the most ideal job in the world, but my foot was in the door.
Mm-hmm.
Ended up driving a truck of Coke, and then turned into a sales position, and, you know, hit all the numbers. Everything was going great.
Right.
And then I decided after X years, it was 2007, May, my son was just born.
Oh, okay.
I decided to quit my job at Coke.
Yeah.
You know, salaried employee, bonus, company car to zero.
To zero.
So I, you know, put in for my leave of absence. Did that. It came back in August, first of all, or no, it was like July. And said, "Oh, we heard back from your leave of absence," because it has to hit New Brunswick, PEI, then Ontario, and then Atlanta. Like, it just crosses everybody's desk.
Oh, okay.
And it came back, they denied it. I said, "Oh, it looks like September 7th is my last day."
Okay.
And I said, "What do you mean?" And I remember the conversation vividly. I could pull you over right where I was sitting when that conversation happened. And I said, "Well, the real estate course starts on the 10th. And my boss at the time, I'm sure his jaw's still sitting on the floor. Everybody thought I was nuts, you know, pension, all. I gave it all up. I went to zero. So I had it in me to do this.
Mm.
And at that point, I had to make it work, because my intention was to take the course, drop my company car off, do that, get licensed, and then just kind of dabble in real estate, just to feel that part out, keep the security of the corporate job.
Yeah.
And they took that away from me, so I took it away from them.
Yeah.
You know, and then it was, you know, I got a new baby. It's time.
It's time.
There's no failure here.
Yeah, you weren't messing around at that
Not
point.
an option. And it all worked out. It just, you know, I dug my heels in and made it work.
You made it happen.
Yeah.
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 Mm-hmm.
So, and that was, to this day, I woke up unemployed that day. You know, I had no job, no income, family, house, mortgage, I had it all, and to zero. So it was, you know.
When you look back at the time,
I don't think
how do you feel?
I don't think I could do it today. You know, give this up to do something else. You know, I love this.
Yeah.
You know, it's 16 years. It's, you know, I'm only 50. It's the longest I've been in one spot, you know, even within the brokerages. You know, I could have went anywhere, I'm sure. Did
you start with Coldwell Banker?
Yeah, I started there the first day. Yeah.
Seems like a pretty strong team.
It is. Yeah, it's great. And it's, you know, location. I don't have to drive through town. It suits me.
Yeah.
You know, if I was in Stratford, I may work at Remax.
Yeah.
You know, if I was in Charlottetown, I could be at C21.
Yeah.
You know, it's just, it worked for me.
Yeah.
And I've always been there, and I'm not a guy that shifts jobs. I've never done that. I've shifted careers.
Yeah.
But I've never went from working from one farmer to another farmer. I worked for that farmer for 10 years, and I drove that truck for 10 years, and now I'm doing real estate.
Yeah.
So I don't jump around. And I think with jumping around, there's people that do, and that suits them, and that's great. I think people lose you. You know, if I left Parker and went to Century 21, people would always have known me at Parker Realty. Did he retire? Did he move away? Who knows, right? What people think. You know, so they know where to find me at all times.
Nice to have that continuity.
Yeah, that's right.
Do you value having a bigger brand that you work with? Like, you'd work with Coldwell Banker and Parker Realty.
Yeah.
Like being with one of the bigger brands as you are versus say not.
Yeah.
Do you get some value from that?
I do. And that comes from my Coca-Cola background, you know, the corporate background. You know, what bigger brand in the world is Coca-Cola? None. It's the biggest brand in the world.
Yeah.
You know, they invented Santa Claus.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh, yeah.
So, you know, that's the brand recognition. And that comes with everything. You know, it comes with the banner.
Yep.
You know, I'm a Coldwell Banker employee or agent.
Yep.
We use their business models.
Yep.
You know, so there's some guidance there within the brand. And I think that's huge. I really do. You know, if I was selling Coca-Cola or No Name, right? No Name's got a good brand.
But which one do you think
it's No Name
you want to be with?
Right? Or Mr. Pop.
Yeah, exactly.
So
there's some goals. Maybe you can have some fun with Jones Soda or something.
Well, yeah, you never know.
Yeah. But yeah, no, that's definitely. Yeah, and I think, you know, different people have different, you know, ways of doing things. Do you work with a lot of off-island agents, helping them with people coming to the island or people going?
Little bit.
Yeah.
Little bit. I have some connections, We don't have a huge referral network.
Yeah.
It doesn't seem.
Yeah.
I make my own.
Yeah.
I recently, last year, had a client leaving PEI, heading to BC, wanted to buy a condo.
Yeah.
So leave it with me.
Yeah.
I got a hold of a lady in BC, have clients, and we've done that, Alberta, Ontario.
Yeah.
Those markets. I can find a colleague within our office or even another office.
Yeah.
I've had RE/MAX agents from Ontario call me. I've had Century 21 agents from BC call me.
Yeah.
So I'm a little bit country, and I have no problem giving an agent of another company a referral.
Yeah.
No problem at all.
It does seem like in my time in this that the collaboration is just such a key part of this whole thing, working together with other agents, that kind of thing, trying to put all these pieces together. So
that's right.
What advice would you give to someone who feels like they bought at the top of the market?
They didn't buy at the top of the market.
Yeah. At least so far it's proven out that way.
In my 16 years, there hasn't been a top of the market yet.
Right.
And there likely never will be.
Mm-hmm.
There's people that have bought in the last 2 years, which they bought in an increasing market. Mm-hmm. Hopefully they're in a 2% mortgage rate or 2.5%, whatever. Yeah. So they really have 3 years of that 2.5%. And that's where it comes back to how long does it take to grow your business? And I say 5, because that's most times people lock a 5-year rate. Mm-hmm. And in that 5 years, they're coming up for renewal. So what do we do, honey? Are we upsizing, downsizing? Our kids, maybe they were 10 when we bought the place. Now they're 15. They're going to be gone in 3 years. Let's downsize.
Yeah.
Or they're new, need more room, a basement finished. Mm-hmm. I think a 5-year is the key. Mm-hmm. That's what's going to make it work. Right.
So if they are in that position where they feel like maybe they push the budget and if they are in a position where they're able to stay put for a little bit.
Yeah.
But even in that case, like people are getting those prices, provided that it was not kind of an unreasonable.
Yeah. And that I've sold houses up to most recent 3 days ago.
Yeah.
Did they buy in the top of the market? No. Mm-hmm. It's going to be higher soon.
Yeah.
You know?
So, I mean, we covered a lot of stuff in here. Is there anything that we didn't cover that you want to talk about?
I don't think.
Yeah.
Nothing I can say on camera.
Okay. Oh, no, that's what we need. The audience. So
that's a whole new show.
That's a whole new show. Exactly.
No, geez, everything's going well, and I think everything's going to go well.
Yeah.
For everybody.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's adjustment.
Yep.
We're just gone back to pre-COVID. So anybody new got into the business in the last year only knows the business from the last year.
Right, yeah.
They don't know the pre-COVID business, time on market, stuff like that. Mm-hmm. We're going back into that. And that's where the experience, and you'll go through a cycle. Mm-hmm. You'll have every, way the business works someday. Yeah, and I haven't yet.
Oh, yeah.
It's constantly, it's forward thinking. The market is forward thinking at all times. There's no better time than right now.
Yeah. What do you think? Is there anything you want to say for, say, a seller who's thinking about what agent to go with?
Yeah.
Is there anything you'd want to say to them?
Interview a couple of personalities. If you, like I say, I present myself differently than some. Everybody's different. It's just who you're, and I usually get clients from clients. That's how it works, right? It's a referral thing. Oh, Jeff did this, and I haven't had any bad experiences in 16 years. I don't plan on it. Everything. Listen, the client's driving the bus. Yep, that's the key. You have nothing to do with the driving of that bus. You're the filter of emotions. That's the key.
That's the key. Interesting. That is a unique Jeff Newsom quote.
It is
for this. So
and if you sleep on it, you might not sleep in it. That's
okay. Yeah. There we've got a couple. there. Any other pearls of wisdom? Feel free to send them along, and I could even add them to the show notes as they come in. But how can people get in touch with you?
You can get in touch with me 237.
Okay.
At 902-626-7250 or my website at homesonpei.com.
Great. And I'll put that in the show notes. If you're watching on YouTube, it's in the description.
Yeah.
And if you're listening on the podcast, I'll put it in the show notes so people can easily find you.
100%.
Great. Thank you so much for coming on.
Appreciate it, David.
Yeah,
Thank
awesome.
you.